Hold up, sisters and brothers, children of the sun, moon, and stars, sons and daughters of divinity, of royalty, divine sparks of divinity, aboriginal, Alkevalan, African mothers and fathers of humanity, human civilization and culture. Please wait. A cotton picking, down home, dirty rice, Delta Mississippi blues, fried chicken, baked chicken, smothered chicken, collard greens, cabbage green, cornbread, black-eyed peas, pinto beans, sweet potato pie, mom's apple pie, juke joint, moonshine minute. And that's a minute. Might be less than a minute, but we're going to say it's a minute. Once again, I'm 8GMTN, Mwanga, Sadaka, Muntu, Nimsayu, Waset, Anaphiel, the Oracle, and I, along with Brother Willie Mike Check Colbert, Executive Director of MC Productions, thank you very much once again for wisely interconnecting, ingathering, and ingesting the red pill of accurate historical and spiritual knowledge, truth, and evidence, highly and heavily spiced and seasoned with unconditional love. With unconditional love. So as to psychotherapeutically experience and bear witness to another awesome and amazing, mind-quaking, soul-shaking, spirit-stirring, eye-opening episode of your Purge, Purify, and Renew Your Mind. Coming to you from the backwoods, muddy waters, sugar ditches, mosquito swamps, dirt roads, railroad tracks, rattlesnake plantations, mockingbirds, cotton fields, and magnolia trees of Greenville and Delta, Mississippi. For those of you who may not have yet heard it through the cosmic community grapevine, the primary purpose of Purge, Purify, and Renew Your Mind is not only to purge, purify, and renew minds, but to enlighten minds, empower people, enrich, enhance, and elevate as many lives as possible for the better. Sisters and brothers, once again, thank you for tuning in and taking time out of your, I know, busy schedule. And our subject for today is entitled, and this is just a working title. It might be a little shorter and it might not be, but the train of thought is this: a brief, beneath and beyond the surface message to the so-called black youth and young adults of Greenville and Delta, Mississippi, specifically, and of America and the world generally. Again, my subject for today is a brief, beneath and beyond the surface message to the so-called black youth and young adults of Greenville and Delta, Mississippi specifically, and of America and the world generally. And you may ask why I decided to try to share my understanding, my knowledge, my research on this subject. And I will briefly say that this subject, or this title, or this message has been with me for many years. And really I haven't truly worked out my thoughts that I would prefer to say, but due to the present circumstance and condition of our young people, from what I perceive, and many of you might perceive, is not a good perception. That reality is kind of horrific. Got a lot of holes in it, and it's painful. And you see a lot of hurt and suffering, not only among, just say, the masses of humanity in general, and the masses of so-called black people specifically, but among our young people, our young adults. And so this message that's coming through me, I feel from what I may call a divine dissatisfaction of the condition and the hurt and suffering of our young people, whether they're conscious of it or not. And so many of them may have heard a similar message that I endeavor to say or speak, and I know they have, because they have heard it from their parents, they have heard it from their teachers, you know, and so forth and so on, and those who care about them, and they are aware of this condition with them by using their own mind, their own innate intelligence. So with all that being said, I want to speak to them, and speak to us, and those who have a ear to hear, and to understand, and to understand, and to overstand. And all may hear, all have heard before, but it's directed to those who may be ready to take heed to the call. And so this message is not a message of condemnation, negative criticism, or fault finding. The message is a message of care, concern, right? Compassion, love and compassion. So I'm speaking from a love, from compassion, from care and concern. And I'm not the only one, right? Because as I recall, an African proverb that says something to the effect that our children, they are the rewards of the future. And by when we examine what we call time and so-called biological age, many of our children will be here after many of us have gone. So this is the premise of this message. And we look around, and I have said before, to my own children, and to other children, to their friends and their associates, past and present, that when you look at the context that each of us and all of us live, move, and experience our so-called beingness, and I always emphasize the context, the social, economic, cultural, political context that we all exist in. And a lot of time, those who may care about our children and our youth, and I've heard a lot of discussion years ago and now, and most time, in my opinion, the analysis that are made, the discussions that take place, more or less they're out of context, because most people don't put the problems, the challenges, the issues within historical and contemporary context. And to me, that's like trying to solve a problem or meeting challenges by dealing with branches. And in my understanding, to effectively meet a challenge or solve a problem, you have to go to, as best as you can, as best as we can, get to the heart of a thing, get to what we call the root of something. Because when you get to the root, you're dealing with some of the causes of what you're dissatisfied about, what you disapprove of. So what I intend to say or endeavor to say is trying to saying it, what I'm saying, within a context within the social, cultural, historical, contemporary context. And if we don't do that, then our analysis, our solutions, our answers, our responses, our reactions, they will be out of context. We will come up short. And just like when you look at a mathematical premise, when you're solving a problem, you know, they always say, you know, find the least common denominator when you divide and add and subtract. The least common denominator. That's getting to the root of something. And then we are better prepared to solve a problem. So we do these things in other areas of life. So why we don't apply them to our social life as a people, as a so-called ethnic group, as a family? We got a lot of work to do. And this work must be based on accurate knowledge, as I stated in the beginning, accurate knowledge and truth and evidence and facts. Not just what we believe. Believing is not enough. Believing is not enough. So I say to the young people, first of all, that you are a divine spark of the divinity. Or we may say in this English language, you're a divine spark of God, the Most High, the universal creative source. That's inside of you. That's who you are. In a seed-like state, that's who we all are. So young people, you are a seed of greatness. You born with gifts and talents and abilities. Extraordinary gifts and talents and abilities. But societal conditions, societal agenda, the system of things and the institutions and the way they function and operate have ambushed our great effort, have ambushed and suppressed your and my gifts and talents and abilities that we are born with. And I always say, make this statement. So just follow me. I might be skipping around and bouncing around, but that's okay. Just follow the rabbit hole. Just follow the trail, because you took the red pill. You took the damn red pill. So follow along. And I know you are capable of following along. But as I said earlier, or continue to say, you are already a success. How can I say that? Think about this. When the sperm of your father traveled up the fallopian tube of your mother and connected with the egg that began the process of you and I. And you and I, after 9 weeks, or 40 weeks, 9 months, came forth. That's a success. So success is already written in your spiritual and genetic makeup. You are already a success. Think over that. You were born successful. We don't have to look for success or create success, but we can expand the success that we already are. Think over that. Meditate on that. Contemplate that. Concentrate on that. And really what's disturbing to me years ago and now, that I witnessed too many of our young people, young adults, operating, falling into what I call traps, social traps of the society. You wasn't born to wake up every day and smoke weed, sell weed, sex it up, drink alcohol, fuss and fight and kill. You weren't born to do those things. And I'm not making a judgment, but I'm saying your greatness is extraordinarily greater than any of those things. Any of these social traps that suppress, right, and handcuff your natural skills and abilities, that you must fan the flame of the spark, of your divine spark. You must think positive and progressive. You must speak positive and progressive. And then your lifestyle must be positive and progressive. That's what I call fanning the flame of your divine spark into a blazing fire. A blazing fire of achievement. A blazing fire of greater success. A greater blazing fire of greater health, wealth, and prosperity, and so forth and so on. This is the gift that you came here with. This is the gift that you were born with. And briefly, as I stated on a previous episode about the word education, which comes from a Latin word, educere, that means to pull out, to draw out, to lead out. That's what true education is. And I may ask the question, which I have before, of many of you. I'm talking to the young people, still talking to the young people. And much of what I'm endeavoring to say, it goes for us as adults too. Because many of us, regardless of age, are emotionally immature. Emotionally immature. As a matter of fact, we emotionally immature as a people, because something has happened to us and we're in denial of that. We're in denial. But on the question to our young people, and someone, and I'm speaking for some others, may ask you the question, how is it possible to truly or authentically love yourself when you don't truly and authentically know yourself? If you don't, from the human standpoint, if you don't truly know yourself, it's a spiritual, scientific, mathematical impossibility to love yourself. You might have some affection for yourself. You might have some care and concern for yourself. You might have a degree of compassion for yourself. But it's a spiritual, mathematical, or scientific impossibility to look truly, authentically love self without having accurate knowledge of self. And when I say accurate knowledge of self, I'm not talking about the name that you was given at birth by your parents. I'm not talking about what's on your social security card. I'm not talking about what's on your bank card. I'm not talking about what's on your birth certificate. I'm not talking about that. To truly know self, knowledge of self is who you are historically and spiritually. That's what I'm talking about. I had a book here with that title. Hold on just a minute. And won't get into it. I'm going to show a lot of titles of books. And not just for the young people, but for those who care about the young people. Those who consider themselves educators and teaching the young people. Here's a book, the title of this book, Wake Up to Your True Identity. And the book is filled with proverbs and quotes and statements, but wake up to your true identity. We have basically two identities, historical self and spiritual self. So knowledge of self pertains to your historical self in terms of the group of people that you belong to, in terms of your ethnicity, or what we call in this society in the world ethnicity. That's the historical self. I mean, the knowledge and truth and evidence and information of what those of your people did and accomplished long before you and I were born. That historical greatness. You know, you belong to a people who brought forth, as I stated in the opening introduction, of who the mothers and fathers of humanity and of human civilization and culture. We're not the children of the world. We the parent stock. You belong to a people who are the parent stock. That's a foundational knowledge of self that you need to know. Not just by words, but what that consists of. And I'm not just talking about how it's emphasized in this society when we talk about February, it's Black History Month, and we just talk about a few people who did this and that and the other, and then we engage in what I call contributionism. Contributionism, what we have done and given to the world and given to ourselves. That's not history. It's just what it says. It's contributionism. But history is greater than that. Your historical identity is greater than that. The historical identity that you are a part of deals with the what I call the flow, the flow and motion of a people, your people, who we today call indigenous people, aboriginal people, Alkebulan people, African people, and the details of that. You know, you belong to a people who brought forth mathematics. You belong to a people, and you are that people, who brought forth medicine, archaeology, building, pyramid buildings, and other kind of buildings, who brought forth trigonometry, geometry, fashion, cuisine, cooking, music, dancing, who plotted the stars in the universe that we know today as astronomy and astrology, numerology, the science of building, the science of trade and economics, social organization. Matter of fact, I'm thinking of Dr. Maulana Karinga, one of our great scholars who still is in the flesh today, and his definition of culture is that it consists of 7 core areas, and I'm gonna try to say them right now. And it's 7 areas of culture, because culture is the total way of life of a people. And in a nutshell, it's their mental and spiritual orientation towards themselves, towards others, towards nature, and towards the universe. And every people have their culture, because it's their mental orientation. And when a people are robbed of their culture, then that people, just think about it. Sit down in some quiet meditation, have a dream like Dr. King told you to. And recall that when you out of your culture, you've been robbed of your culture, you lost the knowledge of your culture, then you are out of your mind. That people are out of their mind. And they have the culture of another people, then they live in the mind of another people. So those people who are out of their mind, because they have lost their culture, don't have the knowledge of their culture, then that people, it can be considered to be crazy, to be insane, because they have lost their natural mental and spiritual rhythm and harmony with themselves, harmony with nature, and harmony with the cosmos. Meditate on that, dream about that, visualize that. But the 7 core areas of culture is your history, a people's history. And I'm not saying history. When I say history, my understanding, my definition of it is the expanded etymological meaning of the word history, in which I simply call life studies. So I'm not talking about history. And I know we can say our story, but I'm talking about the totality and the expanded definition and the root of the meaning of the word history. Your history, your religion or spirituality or moral ethics, that's 2. Then you got a people's social organization, their economic organization, their political organization, their creative production. That's where you get the arts, literature, writing, painting, music, and so forth and so on. And that's what most people think culture is. That's creative production. That's the sixth principle of the core of 7 principles of culture. Creative production. You got your fashion and so forth and so on. And then you got the 7th one, which is called ethos. E-T-H-O-S. And ethos is the psychology of a people and how they see themselves on the other 6 areas of culture. So that's culture. That's the knowledge of self. That's your historical self. And then we go to the spiritual self. And like I said, it's two I call pillars of ascension, of rising up, of elevation, and achievement in life. Your spiritual self, your identity, your spiritual identity. And I stated that in the beginning, that you're a divine spark. Each of us, but I'm talking to the youth now. Each of us is a divine spark of that force and power and intelligence that we, in the English language, call God. And by being that divine spark, that's not only inside of your body temple, but that's who you are. That's who you are. Think of that. Your spiritual identity. So if you're a divine spark, how in the hell can you justify doing all the things that you do that destroy you? You might get some biological and mental pleasure out of it, but it's destroying and suppressing and containing all the gifts and talents that you were born with. And many of you, I guess I have to say it like that, too many, are caught up in this society, this culture that's diametrically opposed to your and our best interest. You know, we look at instant gratification. You know, we desire certain things that are good, beautiful, uplifting, and true, but we don't want to do the work. We don't want to put the right knowledge in our head. We don't want to think positive and progressively. We don't want to have, too many of you don't want to have the discipline and take heed of those who have came before you and trying to help you see the way and just offering guidance. And as I stated over and over again, and earlier I said, because what? This is not the message, and the message that many of us that represent what I'm representing is not a message of condemnation. So don't say that. You can say it if you want, but it's not true. This is not a message of negative criticism. You can say that, but it's not true. And this is not a message of fault finding. This message is a message of care, concern, love, and compassion. Because myself and others who say it and been speaking it for years and speaking it to you now, they care. They are concerned. And they have unconditional love and compassion for your betterment. And I always say, don't let anyone, whoever they may be, and be your mama, dad, or uncle, brother, sister, teacher, whoever, don't let anyone love you more than you love yourself. Never let that happen. In more ways than one, it seems to be happening with too many of our young people and young adults and older people, elder people. Because as I stated, it takes accurate knowledge, accurate historical and spiritual knowledge, truth and evidence and facts to truly love oneself from the human perspective. Because you cannot truly love self if you don't know self. Research that. As I say, meditate on that. And many of you might say to me, brother, I can, and I've heard it before, how can you say it's impossible for me to, I love myself. I care about myself. I'm concerned about myself. But as the elder people would say, you just spitting in the wind. The proof is in the pudding. Just look at your lifestyle. Look at your behavior. Look at your speech. Look how you carry yourself. Look at your character. And some of you may say also, that's just old school. No, it may be old school, but it's good school and with a new groove. Now put that in your pipe and smoke it. Don't dismiss something. Truth is truth. Evidence is evidence. Facts is facts. Knowledge is accurate knowledge is accurate knowledge. Regardless of the time, place, and circumstances. So be real to yourself. This is what it's all about. At all times, be your best self. But you must learn how to be your best self. You must have the proper knowledge in your head to be your best self. And stop lying to yourself and lying to your parents, lying to your brothers and sisters, lying to the world, because you can't, in truth, you can't tell yourself a lie. You can't tell yourself a lie. You can't lie to yourself because your nature is not based on that. Try to lie to yourself. Once again, it's a spiritual, scientific, mathematical impossibility to lie to yourself. You may pretend and you may think you are, but you can't. You cannot lie to yourself. You can fool other people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. Or you can't fool some people all the time. So it's time to wake up and be true to self. And before I close this little brief message out, because it's so much that can be said. I could talk about this for the next 1 million years. Think over that. Those who care, those who are concerned, those who have love and compassion for your betterment, which is our betterment, because you are the fruits or the rewards of the future. Think over that. When many of us have made our spiritual transition out of the body temple, you will be still here. Will you be still faking and shaking and quaking? Still perpetrating? And many of you, and I'm talking to males and females, you say you want the best of life. You want a quality family, a quality marriage, a quality loveship between a man and woman. But you got to make that. You got to create that. You got to do what it takes to do that, to make that happen. You got to put some of the toys down that the society offer you to distract you. And I'm repeating myself, yes, because repetition is the mother of all learning. You can't wake up. You wasn't born to smoke weed all day, to do other drugs, to sex it up, alcohol it up, try to perpetrate and be slick. You can't out-slick the system that we live in. You can't outsmart it. You can't out-slick it. You can't trick it. You had your little day in the sun, but the system, the way it functions and operates, and the way it was designed, is full of traps And at some point in time, if you continue on in your ways, you're going to fall in one of those traps. Because it's designed that way to trap you at some point in time. But you can rise above that and outsmart it by acquiring the knowledge of yourself, historically and spiritually, and then raise up your lifestyle for the better. Make it be positive and progressive. Have the discipline. Impose discipline on yourself that you can achieve, because you already, as I said, you already are success. A few books. I'm going to close out. And I'm thinking of something as I'm picking up this book. And I want to add this to what I just stated. And when we look at specifically, speaking from Greenville in the Delta, Mississippi. And I'm talking about so-called black organizations, and especially the religious institution, and specifically the so-called Christian institution, or the so-called black church. You got money, and many of you, the church folks, especially the ministers and others, deacons, mothers of the church, members in the congregation, you know, we get out and we protest around the city, and we say, stop the violence, stop this, stop killing among the young people, because the rate of the killing continue to increase year by year. And it's horrifying. It's depressing. You know, we got organizations that says something about the name of them is Moms for Children or something to that effect. But my point is this. On the black ministers that's sitting at the throne, on the throne at the head of the church, why can't you? I know I got my reason why you don't in heaven, but why can't you get with 3 or 4 other churches and pool finances together to unite and pool finances and other human resources to build institutions to solve some of these problems and challenges that we say we are dissatisfied with? Because speaking about it and saying stop this and stop that, that's not sufficient. It's good and fine, it has its place, but we must build institutions. Get the so-called, we know money is green, but in this instance, get the so-called black money out of the white damn banks in Greenville. And you can talk to me personally, I still say the same thing. I'll verbalize just what I said. It's the congregation's money, and really all of us, in more ways than one, we have a checking account as individuals, a family, a saving account. Look at all the banks in Greenville, and your and my money is in these banks. And you and I can't go there and get a decent loan if we wanted to. And that money that we put in the banks is not just sitting there. Banks are money-making institutions. They like a house man or a house woman. They take that money and they invest it all around the world and give you and I a small percentage of so-called interest rate. But they like a house person in a dice game or card game. You go up on the boat, you know how it go. So they take that money, that pot of money, and they invest it. And they make millions of more money and give you and I crumbs. So I'm saying, why shouldn't, especially the so-called black ministers, get together with a few other black ministers at a minimum and help fund institutions in Greenville and put our young people and others to work. Stop begging City Hall. Stop begging the Mississippi government for grants and loans. We got what it takes. We got the mental capacity. We got the financial capacity to solve our problems. And nothing is wrong with that. Let no one convince you that something is wrong with that thought. Because that's a thought of love, of self-love. You read your Bible. Most of you say you read it and walk around with it. Used to go to church with it. You may not be able to go to church with it now like you were going before. Where it says, love thy neighbor as thyself. The premise of loving neighbor, which I consider to be anybody and anything other than oneself, that's neighbor. But the premise of the verse is love thy neighbor as thyself. Self-love comes first. And as I stated earlier, it's a spiritual, mathematical, or scientific impossibility to love self without the knowledge of self. Think over that. Here's a book, Man, Heal Thyself. The Wellness Warrior Journey to Self-Mastery. These are just some books that I'm putting before us that you can start doing some reading and research and expanding your self-knowledge. Here's another book. This book here, I think, was by one of our great scholars. I think he's from Chicago, Brother Eugene Perkins. And this book, I think, was written in 1975. And the name of it is Home is a Dirty Street. The Social Oppression of Black Children. Still in print. Still in print. Another book by the same author, Eugene Perkins. I think this was written in 1986. Harvesting New Generations, the Positive Development of Black Youth. I mean, the knowledge has always been before us. And like at no other time, it's at our fingertips right now. To create a community, a comprehensive, well thought out community action plan. Another book by a great scholar and friend of mine I knew in New York City, and he's from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. He made his spiritual transition, I think, in 1985. But Issues of Manhood in Black and White, an incisive look into masculinity in the societal definition of African man. Dr. Amos Wilson, still in print. This book, ASAFO, or Sappho, A Warrior's Guide to Manhood, by Brother Bomani Baruti. Here's the book. Visions for Black Men, Dr. Naeem Akbar, great elder psychologist, scholar warrior. Vision for Black Men. Okay, you might say, oh, those most for men. Well, here's some books, and I don't have them all before me, for the Black children, Black youth. Her Story, Black Female Rites of Passage, by Sister Mary C. Lewis, Lewis. Here the book. Here it is. Unwounded, Unlocking the Universal Uterus, by Sister Ma'adam Markeru Amen. Here's the book. The information, the knowledge is there to expand our mind, to expand our consciousness, because everything starts with our mind, start with consciousness. If we got faulty information in our mind, then our behavior, lifestyle, speech, and everything else gonna be faulty and be off track, just like a train been derailed. Understanding the Assault on the Black Man, Black Manhood and Black Masculinity by our brother Wesley Muhammad, PhD. You can run, but you can't hide. You can get up under the bed, but you'll be found. You can be peeping around corners like most of us do, but we see you, whoever we are, we see you. You can't hide from self. The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness by our sister Michelle Alexander, and where she, with this book, show the trap of mass incarceration, how black men and black women, the youth, how you've been set up from day one with this mass incarceration. You know, don't go to school, you fail in school. Like they say, one of the phrases I've heard, like from the classroom to the prison house, something to that effect. You know it better than I do. These are traps. Scientifically and socially manipulated. Because mass incarceration, the prison system, that's big business. You got all kind of people, businesses that got contracts with the prison system. That everything that's being used in the prison system is big business. And you and I are the raw material. So don't glorify and glamorize social vices that suppress your ability, your gifts and talents that you were born with. And then glorify and glamorize that, like some of us do. Oh yeah, I spend some time behind bars. You know, like that's some kind of, I don't know, like amazing, wonderful and monumental thing. No. Another book, Black Love is a Revolutionary Act by a brother who called himself Umoja. Umoja is one of the first principles of Kwanzaa that means unity. But black love is a revolutionary act. Revolution don't simply means like most of us have been socially engineered to believe that it means, like picking up a gun and killing somebody, killing another one that looked like yourself, or killing other people. No, the word, go look at the etymological meaning of the word. Track words down, get to the root, as I stated. The word revolution only means a total and complete positive and progressive change. That's all it means. It's a transformation. Or you can say it in biblical sense, it's being born again. A new you. That's what the word revolution means. A total, complete, positive, and progressive change. It uses it everywhere. Revolution in education, revolutionary diet. So if something was despicable about the word, how can it be associated with diet, a revolutionary diet? Revolution in education, revolution in medicine, because they know when it's used properly and they understand that it means a total, complete, positive, and progressive change. That's all it means. A few more books, and I know my time is winding down. Brainwashed, Challenge to the Myth of Black Inferiority, Tom Burrell. The Psychology of Self-Hatred and Self-Defeat Towards a Reclamation of the African Mind. Once again, Dr. Amos Wilson. Think Like a Winner, Dr. Walter Dole Staples. Think like a winner. If you say you're a winner, then you must know how winners think. And if you say that you're a winner and then we constantly being defeated and derailed off track from the manifestation and expression of our gifts and talents, know how a winner think. Books everywhere, knowledge everywhere, not just here but everywhere. Even at your own feet and fingertips. A classic book here, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And the title said, Think and Grow Rich. Not just money, but it includes money. Think and grow rich. Think about it. Think with accurate knowledge, truth and evidence and facts. Think about your historical and spiritual identity, and you and I will grow rich from inside out. And all that we desire in the world that's good, beautiful, uplifting, and true will be attracted to us. Our lifestyle, we will be walking down a street, so-called street, paved with gold. You don't have to wait till you so-called die. We will make heaven on earth. Book here, Wombology by a sister C.J. Johnson, psychology. Wombology, and on the back side, a paragraph says this: imagine for a minute that there could be an undeniable connection between prenatal environment and emotional issues that occur during childhood, during adulthood. Wombology presents the innovative concept that a pregnant woman's deep emotional state can shape her child's consciousness throughout his or her life. Think about that. So-called black woman, black man, we can be damaged, and most of us are, in the womb. Long before we come into the outer world. It's just that deep. The Science of Self. Man, God, and the Mathematical Language of Nature, Volume 1, Supreme Understanding, and CBS, A Life, A Law. That's the author. But The Science of Self, powerful book. The Science of Self. The science of yourself. Black youth, young adult, the science of yourself. There's a science to you. Black on black violence. The psychodynamics of black self-annihilation in service of white domination. Dr. Amos Wilson again, powerful book. For those who are concerned about what we call black on black violence. But we never put what we call black on black violence in historical context of white on black violence. Historically and contemporarily. The way this system has always functioned and operated in relationship to so-called black people. That's the context that generates and profit and benefits from what we call black on black violence. We have to put that in context. If we don't put it in historical and contemporary context, then we are dealing with branches. You never come up with a sufficient solution to what's called black on black violence until we put it in proper historical and contemporary context. Because this society that we live in is a crimogenic society itself. We live, all people that in this society live, move, and have and experience their beingness in this society. It's a crimogenic society. Do your homework if you don't believe me. If you can't accept it in the way I'm saying it, do your homework. The information is there. It's not hidden anywhere. It's above table. This country came into existence through bloodshed. It was born in bloodshed. It came into existence, on the genocide of the so-called Native Americans and the enslavement of African people. It was born in blood. But no one want to talk. They don't want to talk the people who classify themselves as white, because I've never seen a white person. That's a political construct, mental construct anyway. And it's about power and control, domination and control. The definition of the word, because there's no such thing as a white person. I've never seen one. If you have, call me up, let me know. But I've seen people who more closer to black than someone close to white if we want to get into these color games. And the so-called white person or people who have defined what that term means, and it's all things that's good, beautiful, uplifting, and true. You know, white as the driven snow. You know, white angel cake. Just turn to thesaurus. Look up the terms white and black and see what you get. Then they use that in that religious domination and control. It gives you that image of a so-called Jesus, and say when you use the biblical verses to justify that, and say when you have seen me, the man in the story of Jesus, you've seen the Father. And when you see the image that Michelangelo and others painted, that image is a so-called person with the definition of so-called white person: blonde hair, pale skin, and blue eyes. So if you've seen the Son and you haven't seen the Father, but you've seen the look at the psychology. If you've seen the Son, then the Son is a direct representation of the Father. So in your computer brain, your deepest recesses of your inner mind, you say, well, if the Son, the only begotten Son, is pale skin, blue eyes, and so-called white, then the Father, the divine Father that we call God, must look like that too. So if you can't challenge, and you know you can't win against God, so that's your psychological mental makeup is saying that to challenge folks who dominating over our lives, who have dictating over our lives, or who have superimposed themselves between you and what we call the Most High. You can't win by challenging them on anything. That's a psychological. A few more books. The Developmental Psychology of the Black Child, Dr. Amos Wilson. The developmental psychology of the black child. A few points on the back of the book. It's asking questions, and you can put it in a statement. You know, are black and white children the same? Is the black child merely a white child who happens to be quote unquote painted black? Are there any significant differences in the mental and physical growth and development of black and white children? All these are true, yeah. Except for they're not a black child having to be painted black. But the one, are there any differences in the mental and physical growth and development of black and white children? I mean, he writes about all this and come forward with the evidence. He's just not stating it as a belief. What effects do race and awareness have, so-called race, have on the mental and personality development of black children? Is the use of black English a sign of mental inferiority? And he just goes on and on, Another book by one of our scholars today, Anthony Browder, from the Browder File. Great book. Same author with a book here called From the Browder File 2, Survival Strategies for Africans in America. I can go on and on, but I think at this time, I better bring this to a close. The Moynihan Report, the so-called Negro family, the case for national action. This a governmental report by Daniel P. Moynihan during I think it was the 60s. Check this information out. Are you under a spell? The master plan revealed by Brother Ambassador Assar. Dick Gregory wrote a book, classic book, No More Lies, The Myth and Reality of American History. Dick Gregory, still in print. a book about you. A book about you. Check the book out. A book about our personal, so-called individual self. A book, title of this book, How to Succeed. Dynamic Mind Principles That Transform Your Life. Brian Adams. The Black People's Matrix. How black minds have been socialized to benefit white society. This is a powerful book. Mental side. Mental side. The Willie Lynch letter. The Willie Lynch letter and the making of a slave. And we as a people, we still are mentally and psychologically enslaved. And whether Willie Lynch existed or not, that's not the point. But look at the information and the dynamics and the process of making a people slave and maintaining them enslaved is carried out. That's what's relevant. Because we know that ain't no one man during slavery time wrote a document and from the Caribbean Islands and how to manage all the millions of brothers and sisters who were enslaved. But what's most relevant is the process, the information in this book and how it's applied right now today. The falsification of African consciousness, Eurocentric history, psychiatry, and the politics of white supremacy, Dr. Amos Wilson. One of our great Queen Mothers scholars, The ISIS Paper, The Keys to the Colors by Dr. Francis Cress Wilson. African Origin of Biological Psychiatry by Dr. Richard King. Powerful book. The Ember Tablets and the Kabbalion, talking about the 7 principles of the universe, of life. The Kabbalion, 7 core principles of life. Last but not least, Awaken the World Within, Hilton Hotima. So, brothers and sisters, on a final note, as I keep saying, and this is it. And Michael Jackson, with his last album, a song, this is it. And I'm saying that to the young people, this is it. Dr. King said the time is RIPE, right, to do right towards yourself and towards those who care about you, love you, and have compassion for you. The time is ripe to do right. And this is it, Michael Jackson. And Dr. King, in one of his classic book, Strive Towards Freedom, he says, and he's speaking to the religious institution, but a religion, page 36 of the book, but a religion true to its nature must also be concerned about man's social condition. Religion deals with both earth and heaven, both time and eternity. Religion operates not only on the vertical plane, but also on the horizontal plane. That's Dr. King. And finally, Dr. King says this also. Any religion that professes to be concerned with the souls of men and is not concerned with the slums that damn them, the economic conditions that strangle them, and the social conditions that cripple them is a dry as dust religion. That's Dr. King. Do not believe in anything simply because you have heard it. Do not believe in anything simply because it is spoken and rumored by many. Do not believe in anything simply because it is found written on your religious books, in your religious books, or any books. Do not believe in anything merely on the authority of your teachers and elders. Do not believe in traditions because they have been handed down for many generations. But after close observation and analysis, when you find that anything and all things, as I say, agrees with reason, is conducive to the good and benefit of one and all, then accept it and live up to it. The naked truth is always better than the best dressed lie. Not to know is bad, not to want to know is worse. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. James Baldwin. Everything must change. Nothing stays the same. Everyone will change. No one stays the same. The young becomes the old, and mysteries do unfold, because that's the way of time. Nothing and no one goes unchanged. There are many things in life you can be sure of, except rain comes from the clouds, sun lights up the sky, and hummingbirds do fly. Winter turns to spring, a wounded heart will heal, but never much too soon. Yes, everything will change. The young becomes the old, and mysteries do unfold, because that's the way of time. Nothing and no one goes unchanged. Every shut eye isn't closed, and every goodbye isn't gone. And in closing, a statement from Amilcar Cabral, and he was a freedom fighter in a West African country called Guinea-Bissau. And I think he was assassinated in the 80s. And he said this, and I say this after him: hide nothing from the masses of our people. Tell no lies. Expose lies whenever they are told. Mask no difficulties, mistakes, or failures. Claim no easy victories. Amani Nao Pindo. Namaskar.